understand what it looks like to be a good PPC manager, because if you're interested in this, you're either in my position, as I mentioned, you think you might be hiring somebody, but then they're a total fraud. How's it going, everybody? Gene Villano's here, another episode of the PPC Cave. Today's episode 115, and the title for today's episode is 5 Questions Before Hiring a PPC Manager. This is something that I feel like a lot of people should be listening to, just because maybe you're interested as a business owner in PPC. That's why you're listening to us. Or maybe you're like me, you're a freelancer or you do PPC for a company. And this could be something that's super important for you to even maybe get a job in PPC. So I think understanding these 5 questions are versatile for so many different people. If you're hiring, if you're looking for a job, if you're a freelancer, if you're in-house, if you're full-time. So I think this is a good episode for all sorts of people. But before we get into the episode, I do want to speak on our sponsor, Opteo. Opteo is one of those things that can actually really help you and your efficiency with Google Ads. If you haven't tried Opteo yet, I do suggest going to www.opteo.com/the PPC Cave. You can upgrade your regular 14-day trial to a 28-day trial, and this can definitely help you become a better PPC manager and be more efficient with your time, with more impactful optimizations and analysis. So, getting into the 5 different questions. One is, how do you measure success besides return on ad spend, CPA, cost per conversion? Because I think what we're trying to draw out of this particular conversation with someone that is looking to maybe get a job as your PPC manager, full time in house, or even your agency, or even like me, I'm trying to hire different freelancers to fill some gaps in my own side business as a PPC manager, is what types of metrics are you looking at underneath the surface of return on ad spend, conversions, CPA, cost per conversion? So basically, any cost per or any conversion based metric beyond that, because you can tell a lot about a freelancer or candidate if they go beyond just conversions. Obviously, we want conversions in Google Ads, but what other things do you look at? Maybe they'll bring up some type of profitability or the quality of lead. In general, maybe even like CTR, or more of these specific metrics like search loss due to, or search impression share loss due to budget or rank. So that means that you're looking beyond surface level and you're going into the depths of understanding not only am I getting conversions, yes or no, but what is the factors or variables leading up to that conversion. And we all know if you're looking for a PPC manager, you need a little bit of an analytical mind. So I think this really gives you a sneak peek if this particular person is a good fit. Or if you're on the other side, if you're interviewing for a PPC job, you have to be specific like this, because a business owner obviously wants conversions, but for you to be the expert that they trust and for you to build your credibility, this would be a perfect chance for you to dive into deeper metrics that they might not even know. Maybe a business owner doesn't even know what search impression share loss due to budget means, and you can actually have a chance to explain that. So I think that if you're interviewing for this, PPC manager role, or just PPC manager in general, it's good to kind of flex a little bit of your experience beyond, conversion data, beyond just getting conversions, yes or no. I think that's definitely a good sign if you can do that. Or even if they ask about your business model, or if you ask about their business model, if you're interviewing for a job, or if you see a PPC manager ask, okay, well, yeah, before I answer your question, what is this hypothetical client's business model? That really will blow someone out the water, I feel like, with your expertise. And if you're hiring on the other side, that really will impress the person hiring as well. So second question, what type of account structures are you used to? Maybe ask them to explain their ideal account structure, the philosophy of how they manage the accounts, and how they structure their current accounts currently. I think that's important for them to provide you strategic explanations instead of just buzzwords. Good follow up questions to this is, okay, well, what does the initial account look like in regards to the structure? Is it one Performance Max campaign and a search campaign? If someone says they just run Performance Max campaign, maybe you kind of like, that might be a red flag, because we all know search and Performance Max really coincide and work well together. Maybe even another follow up is, how do you separate these campaigns? How do you decide between search versus Performance Max, or do you utilize both? Structuring geo targeting. If they say, yeah, I use one campaign and I try to put all these different countries and locations inside one campaign, that you should know that that's not the best strategy. You want to definitely structure towards geolocations and targeting. So I think that's super important for them to be able to quantify, through speaking to you and communicating, this is how I would structure, or the philosophy of the structure of my campaigns. And for me, if I was to receive this question somehow, I would always lean towards um, providing structure for campaigns so that you can optimize these particular campaigns to best sellers or best services, right? Both e-commerce and lead generation. The goal is to have products that eventually evolve into a bestseller where the return on ad spend is high, or eventually evolve into, this is the leading group of the services that I'm trying to drive traffic to for my lead generation website. So this is the main service, and optimizing towards a lower cost per conversion, or a lower cost per acquisition. I think that's super important. If you could somehow let people know that are interviewing you, or that is, you're basically looking for someone, that can explain that. I think that's super highly analytical, and they've had experience in the past that can probably they could probably handle the account, or any account that you throw at them. So um, but yeah, third question is, how do you handle conversion tracking? I think this is huge. I think this is very important. Even like me, I don't do conversion tracking, but I would answer it in a way where, yeah, I have a developer on retainer, or that I go to for all for all the conversion tracking data, and they're vetted, and I go through and explain to you what he has done done in your account. I think being able to grasp a little bit, even if you're offloading this particular task, because I know a lot of PPC managers do, to someone else, but being able to explain a little bit of what a conversion tracking is, and the attribution and the importance of every primary action, or even secondary action inside an account that's accurately set up. I think being able to talk about that, you'll really notice that this particular PPC manager knows what they're talking about. And, like I said, on the other side, if you're interviewing, this is something that you have to talk about for sure. You want someone to understand GA4, GTM, even if they're not doing the installation themselves, but can give you a good lay of the land of what a primary conversion is versus secondary conversion, anything that's CRM or offline related. The attribution gaps where people or clients usually say, "Oh, how come GA4 doesn't match Google Ads? It doesn't match Shopify? It doesn't match my backend?" There are these gaps. Definitely be able to explain that. And I think it's a red flag where they say, "Okay, Google tracking is enough. You don't have to consolidate this with other software or your backend." I think that's a red flag also, if you really want to get deeper into vetting when when you're hiring a PPC manager or you're being hired as a PPC manager. Explaining these nuances, I think, is super important in general, just because Google Ads or even any PPC platform is just super opaque, and it's hard to provide a client that comfort if you can't explain the nuances, because what a client or someone hiring is just going to think is, wow, like I have no idea if they're doing what they should be doing, if what's being reported is 100% accurate. So how do I know that I'm getting the best return on my investment? So I think to ease their qualms, or I think that's what I think that's how you say it. To just kind of ease their mind, I think it's good to really dive deep into conversion tracking, and so that they can understand a little bit more about it. Um, yeah, number four, this is more of like an internal look, in their experiences. And I ask this all the time, even when I'm hiring for freelancers to help me, is ask them about a campaign that has failed in the past, and, what they've learned from it. A lot of the times you could spot a fake when they say, oh, nothing has failed. I've just had great times. Everyone in Google Ads or in PPC has failed one time or another, or else you wouldn't probably be a good PPC manager if you haven't, just because, it's just an unrealistic point of view if you haven't failed. So if they can explain what they did wrong, what they learned, what they changed, and how they diagnosed the issue if it was ever to arise again, I think that's a mark of a good analytical, methodical PPC manager that can, troubleshoot, test, and then troubleshoot, and then execute fairly quickly. Like a red flag, as I mentioned, is someone that says, I've never had a campaign fail. It's just funny to me to think if someone would say that so quickly. Would I just try to end the call and be like, yeah, it was really good talking to you. We'll be in touch, give them that whole spiel. But yeah, don't be that guy. Final question, fifth question, if you're hiring a PPC manager or you're looking to be hired as a PPC manager, they might ask you, what would you do in the first 30 days? This reveals if you have an actual process. And a lot of Google Ads managers that are established or that have seen a lot of different clients have a process, because if they don't, then the time is ticking. A lot of the times we say it takes 2 to 3 months to dial in a Google Ads or PPC account, but in reality, what are you doing in the first 30 days is what the client or your boss is thinking about. So if you can hit the ground running quickly and have a process within the first 30 days, this reveals a lot. And some of these answers could be tracking audit. Is conversion tracking set up? I think that's first and foremost. You may be even reviewing specific settings such as auto apply recommendations, looking at search terms. Are you looking at the search terms that are spending and not converting? As simple as that is, looking at all those particular campaigns. Or is the process someone that is going to completely turn off all your current campaigns? For me, that would be a red flag, because Google really puts a lot of stock into campaigns that have previous spend. So for someone to not even try to salvage my current campaigns as bad as they are, or even ensure me that they'll look at the campaigns that have spent a lot of money before, they just want to turn it off and start over, that to me is kind of like a red flag, because you could still probably salvage this campaign that has spent a lot of money, into either, negative keywords or going after different search keywords. So that's another process that they might bring up, or if they don't bring up, could be a red flag for you. Maybe competitor analysis, the budget pacing. All in all, excuse me, what are some of these strong answers, and how would they look for someone that does have a process? But I think all in all, it's important for them to just give you a process. I think a lot of the times now when I interview for a freelancer job, it's like they'll tell me their process, and it usually utilizes AI. And I think that's good. I think that's good, because AI really keeps you straight. And of course, if you don't have an AI or software that helps you. Opteo is the best. I told y'all before, Shakira and I went through a to-do list, and I think that's awesome that you could just get a to-do list so that you can have a process, not only when you begin an account, but also a daily process. So I think, those are pretty good, strong answers. If they start to like be like, I don't really have a process. I just look at the clients and each client's different. I think that's BS. I think that's a BS. I actually just learned the sign language for BS. This is BS in sign language. This is it. So take a look if you're on YouTube or Spotify video. This is awesome. I know one word in sign language, but anyway, yeah, I think that would be BS if they say I just look at clients and on a whim or sporadically, I create a process. I think it's important to have a copy and paste process for all clients, and that will really show you if they're an experienced PPC manager. Other bonus red flags, guaranteeing specific return on ad spend, conversions in general, or cost per conversion. I think that's terrible if they guarantee that. If they're maybe avoiding attribution or stalling on like what attribution is to them or what conversion tracking is to them, saying they don't really deal with conversion tracking. That's obviously a red flag. We discussed that. Not mention landing pages. I think that's short-sighted of them to think that all optimizations or all performance is hinged upon Google Ads. A lot of it is hinged upon the website that you drive traffic to. So I think that's important. Only talking about AI and automation, that might be someone that don't know how to do things manually inside Google Ads. That's another red flag. No reporting. If they don't have a reporting cadence of what they're doing in the account, how they can show you that they're credible by the work that they're doing instead of just you going through looking at the change history, I think that's another red flag. So these are bonus red flags that you can, try to avoid if you're interviewing for a PPC manager job. Avoid saying these things. And if you are hiring for one, you could definitely watch out and see if they do mention some of these things. But yeah, I think all in all, it's important for us to understand what it looks like to be a good PPC manager, because if you're interested in this, you're either in my position, as I mentioned, or both. I do both. I am the PPC manager and I am hiring for a freelance PPC manager. So I think it's timely for me just because I'm kind of in this season of doing this. But yeah, very important for you to understand, because PPC in general can be one of those, like I said, opaque, not transparent industries where you think you might be hiring somebody, but then they're a total fraud. They're a total charlatan, and we don't want that here. We want to be able to expose all those people, because I believe PPC is a wonderful tool. If you have a great PPC manager that's transparent, communicative, putting in the work into your account, I think it could be one of the best investments as a business owner that you could ever have. So that's to wrap up. Wrapping it up with bonus red flags. Just think about these questions, and we'll have the video description and all of it laid out also. Again, if you have any questions, always the ppccave@gmail.com. Email us or just comment in any of our or on any of our social media platforms. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, TikTok. We're there. So, drop us a line, drop us a question or comment. Again, I can't stress enough the importance of software. Maybe you're not ready to hire a freelancer, and that's how I was. I usually was just leaning towards Opteo and software to help when I didn't really need a freelancer to help me with my current clients. But yeah, www.opteo.com/theppccave. Upgrade your 14-day trial to a 20-day trial today. And yeah, we release every 12 a.m. Mountain Time weekly. Me and Ryan will get back together. I know he's in Spain right now having a great time. And I'll be going to Canada next week, so we'll figure something out. But yeah, until then, if there's nothing else, bye for now.